There are moments when a room that feels ordinary suddenly turns heavy, as if every breath and every sound is waiting for something to break open. Sometimes the story begins long before anyone realizes it. Sometimes it begins with a single question asked at exactly the wrong time by exactly the wrong person. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to see how far this conversation is reaching. The clock on the courtroom wall clicks forward, but the young woman seated at the defense table does not bother to look up. She is 23 years old, perfectly dressed, perfectly bored, and perfectly convinced that the world bends around her convenience. One leg is crossed over the other, her fingers sliding across her phone screen as if she is lounging in a cafe waiting for her order to be called. "Can we move this along?" "I have a lunch reservation," she murmurs. Not lifting her eyes, the judge sets his pen down with a slowness that feels like a warning. The room absorbs the pause. Every whisper stops. His voice, when it comes, is quiet but firm. "Miss Ashford, this is a courtroom. Put the phone away." She slides the phone into her purse with the exaggerated sigh of someone performing irritation for an audience. Her attorney tries to smooth things over, but the judge lifts a hand and the apology dies mid-sentence. "This court does not exist to greet your schedule," he says. "It exists to hear the truth." On paper, her case seems small. Packing in a reserved space, tearing up the citation, ignoring 3 summons from the court. The dollar amount is not high. The consequences, on the surface, look routine. But that simplicity is deceptive because what is about to unfold is not about money and not about a ticket. It is about something older, something uglier, and something that does not react well when exposed to sunlight. Privilege has a way of disguising itself as confidence. Until someone holds it still long enough to be examined, the clerk reads the charges, her voice steady, and the judge turns his attention back to the woman who would rather be anywhere else. "Miss Ashford, did you receive the certified summons sent to your home?" She shrugs. "My assistant handles mail. That is not my question." A beat of silence. Then a reluctant, "I guess." The judge lifts a page from the file, his expression unreadable. "There's more. An incident from last year. A blocked loading zone, a long delay, and a statement made to a parking attendant regarding your family's donations." She rolls her eyes as if remembering an annoying pop-up advertisement rather than an actual event. "Probably nothing." "Pattern matters," the judge replies. He asks about the morning in question, the one that led her here. She answers with clipped annoyance, describing a quick errand, a ticket she considered invalid, and a decision to rip it up because in her mind it was all unnecessary. When the judge clarifies that the space she chose was not simply any parking spot, but one marked with the blue wheelchair symbol and wide access stripes, she dismisses the significance. It was empty. She says empty, as if emptiness meant harmlessness. The judge nods to the bailiff. "Please play the recording." A burst of static, and then her voice fills the room. The tone is cold, sharp enough to slice through the air. "This is ridiculous. Do you know who I am?" The officer on the recording responds with calm professionalism. But the entitlement in the young woman's replies lands like small explosions in the quiet courtroom. "My family funds this city," she says. The silence that follows is alive. The judge lets it stretch, lets the weight settle. Lets everyone consider how those 5 words sound when spoken inside a building where justice is supposed to exist above wealth. "Officer Romano," he asks softly, "how did you interpret that statement?" "As an attempt to pressure me, Your Honor, as leverage?" The defendant leans back in her seat. "I was being sarcastic. People are so dramatic, but drama has nothing to do with what comes next." The clerk confirms that the court Received calls and emails from an address associated with her family's company only minutes after the ticket was issued. Attempts to resolve matters quietly. Attempts that did not mention her presence in the accessible space. Only her family's philanthropic history. Her attorney insists she did not make those calls. The judge does not argue. Instead, he asks for a phone call to be placed on speaker. A woman's voice emerges, tired, gentle, but steady. She explains that her daughter uses a wheelchair, that Wednesday mornings are therapy days, that they needed the one van-accessible spot in front of the pharmacy. She describes pulling up and finding it blocked. She describes the scramble to find another space, the time lost. The therapy missed. She needs those appointments, the mother says. When the ramp cannot come down, everything is delayed. A soft sound escapes from somewhere in the courtroom, maybe a sigh, maybe a breath caught in the throat. The mother's voice trembles only once, then grows quiet as she thanks the judge and hangs up. The defendant mutters under her breath, "It was only 10 minutes." The judge's voice is almost a whisper. 10 minutes can be someone's entire window. He lifts the 3 ignored summons, all signed for. All acknowledged. All dismissed by choice. You knew, he says gently. You simply believed the rules did not apply to you. Her attorney makes a final attempt to contain the damage by requesting that the hearing be sealed because of the family's importance to civic projects. The judge looks at him with something close to sadness. Justice is not a private arrangement, he says. We remain on the record. Then, right when the tension feels stretched to breaking, the young woman says the sentence that will follow her for the rest of her life. I own you. 12 seconds pass. 12 long, unforgiving seconds. Even the lights seem to dim when the judge speaks. The softness in his tone carries more power than any raised voice could. You own nothing in this courtroom. Not the law. Not the process. Not me. He finds her responsible on all counts. The evidence is too clear, too consistent, too revealing. She reacts with a small exhale, as if the fines mean nothing. And perhaps they do in terms of money, but the judge is not finished. He outlines a plan that is not a punishment but a path, a difficult one, a humbling one she never expected. Handwritten apologies. Community service. Real service. Work at a food bank, work with disability advocates, work measuring access ramps and hearing the stories of those who fight every day for the simple right to move through the world. He requires her to record messages for schools. He assigns a reflection essay titled Money versus Authority. He makes clear that none of it is for show. Mercy is not a reduction, he says. It is a responsibility. Then he adds something larger than her case. Policy proposals for the entire city. Transparency logs. Donor influence firewalls. Immediate towing for vehicles blocking accessible spaces. Public service requirements that center real families. Not optics. The hearing ends. But her story does not. The first apology she writes is rejected for sounding like a rehearsed public relations document. She tries again. The second attempt carries her actual handwriting, her actual voice. The officer she insulted agrees to meet with her. When they sit across from each other in a small cafe, the officer tells her honestly, "Your words made me feel as though my integrity was for sale." For the first time, the young woman has nothing defensive to offer. The mother of the child with cerebral palsy accepts her written apology but does not wish to meet. Her message to the court is simple. She acknowledged what she took from us. That is enough. Weeks pass. She completes her hours, not with enthusiasm, but with gradually quieting resistance. At the food bank, she sorts donations beside people who do not care who her family is. At the Accessibility Coalition, she learns how steep a ramp is allowed to be. Why stripes are painted that way. How a few stolen minutes can ripple into hours of lost therapy or missed appointments. Her first set of PSAs sound polished, artificial, too safe. She records them again, this time without the protective shell. They are approved. 12 weeks later, she returns to the courtroom. No entourage, no attorney, no performance. The judge reviews her completion file. Every requirement met. Every hour logged. Every task fulfilled. Tell me the heart of your reflection, he requests. She breathes deeply, and something in her posture has changed. I believe that money created exceptions, she says. I believe that because we donated buildings, the rules were optional for me. I believe that our contributions meant authority. But money cannot purchase the right to steal access from someone else. It cannot purchase the right to insult an officer. It cannot purchase the right to inconvenience a child with needs I never understood until now. The judge listens carefully, then nods. You stopped trying to own the system, he says. You started learning from it. He reduces a portion of the fines and assigns a manageable payment plan for the rest. And before she leaves, he gives her one last piece of truth. Do not thank me, he says. Thank the people who taught you what the system never could. Months later, the policies suggested that day become official. The transparency logs reveal patterns no one expected. Accessible spaces clear faster across the city. And in classrooms across Rhode Island, her simple, unpolished PSAs spark conversations among students who have never been asked to consider why those blue stripes matter. Some stories begin with entitlement. Some end with transformation. This one sits somewhere in between, a reminder that justice does not